file. Ms. Ritter, your witness is on the stand. Detective, you are still under oath. Ms. Ritter, you may proceed.
At this point, Your Honor, I believe the people wanted to play people's music. May I share my screen?
You may. Don't forget to share volume.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
and at this time, people are playing the video. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching it down here. I'm not looking up there. Just so you know. That's fine. Can you, is it already all the way big on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Our interviews. So we're going to talk to you about what happened, give us information. Then gonna let you know. All right, so this interview is with, what's your name again?
I go by my middle name Wayne, but my first name's Keith.
What's your government name?
Yeah, Keith Wayne Ditmore.
All right, cool. Well, and I'm Detective Thomas. I got Detective Derek Mason and Sergeant Dusko in the room. So tell us what happened this night at this club with this incident with this guy that allegedly got beat up in the club.
More or less, just like your typical weekend night. I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday.
Okay, good.
It was one or the other. But your typical busy night. We had bachelor parties, reservations and whatnot. It was kind of earlier in the night. I remember that. I want to say it was like around like 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Makes sense for when this happened.
Okay, good.
Just basically chilling at the VIP table. Have you ever been to the bar?
Where's it at?
Coliseum?
Oh,
To know the layout?
not really.
Yeah, I don't remember the layout.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'll listen to you.
It's kind of like standing over by the bathrooms and the VIP and this humidor, and there's like a table right there. More or less just customers had their drinks at the table. My buddy Cyril was sitting there eating at the table. We're just hanging out, bullshitting, just.
Turn the vibe.
No.
Okay.
Well, Ms. Ritter, do you have volume all the way up on your end?
Could you pause it, Judge? I'm sorry.
I mean, can y'all stop? It's too many instructions
I know.
coming from over here this side of the stage. Now, I've been doing this for 30 years and I know how to do some stuff. So y'all have to give me a chance before you just start blurting out instructions. All right, Ms. Ritter, is the volume up all the way on your computer system?
Yes.
All right, so let's see. Rewind it a little bit and let me see. Okay, yeah, play it now. Let me see.
More or less just customers had their drinks at the table. My buddy Cyril was sitting there eating at the table. We're just hanging out, bullshitting, just going about the shift, sitting in the rooms, and then more or less all of a sudden like heard like a commotion from the back. Obviously something was going on. We're there for that reason. I go back to see what's going on. There's shouting going from the back of the corner. Jeremiah, the other guy, is the one that sat there. More or less, like the girls were like motherfucking him. He's motherfucking them back. Like I could tell something was going on. So went back. The curtain busted open. They came out of the room. Guy was like, "Fuck this, motherfucker!" Like, girls. The girl that was here, Paris, she kind of looked up something. Like he put his hands on you. So
How many girls was in the room?
2.
So Paris and another girl?
The other girl, I have no idea what her name is. Like, I don't even remember. It was like a girl that worked like a couple shifts, and then after that,
Okay, go ahead.
some of the girls come in, just work a couple shifts, you never see them again type deal.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, they come out of the room, he comes like charging out a little bit. I'm like, whoa, okay, like let's stop. He's like, you go fuck yourself, and then kind of like cold shoulder me and pushed right through me. And then Jeremiah is like standing kind of like, if he was like walking towards that door, like Jeremiah stood in the entrance, like, whoa, bro, let's stop. And
So how many feet would you say Jeremiah was from you?
There's 3 TVs there side by side, probably like 10 feet.
Okay.
So he started walking towards him. I'm like, oh shit, because I could kind of tell he's either going to blow by him or something's going to happen. And he more or less just went toe to toe with him and took a swing. So I came up behind him, kind of put him in the full Nelson. We collided into the wall, went into the table, knocked everything off the fucking table.
So this guy's been very combative.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
More or less, we hit the pillar. He fell. I fell into the pillar and into the mirror. He went into the table. I came back out, grabbed him, and because he's coming up from the table, and he went into the fucking cigar humidor thing that's like right next to it. I busted up my shoulder. He busted up himself. That was basically it at that point.
So at what point?
All the security guys from up front, because that's their job. Like our job is basically to call them when there's an issue. So by the time they got back, it was pretty much already done.
So you're not security?
I'm security at a certain extent. Like I watch the rooms. If there's an issue, I call up front. But by the time they got back, it was pretty much just done. Like,
all right. So this guy bust through you guys. At what point did you guys start swinging? You're punching, hitting.
Nobody, like on our side, nobody was throwing punches. Like he tried to, like he might have connected with Jeremiah a little bit, but I pretty much stopped him. Like when he went to swing, like he was like mid swing, I basically just run and grabbed him, and tried to put him in a full Nelson, and he just wrestled with me. We kind of like went this way and smacked into the pillar because there's 2 big ass pillars on both sides of the entrance right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I kind of like fell and went off to the right, and then he went forward, and then that's like more or less the exit of the VIP. Off to the right, there's a big ass granite table right there. And that's like where we sell all our drinks and people like eat and stuff.
Now, when he came in here, did you see him walk into the bar?
I didn't see him walk in because like I'm here, the front entrance is like here, and there's like a football field between almost.
Did you see him go into the room?
Yeah.
Did you escort him to the room?
I didn't escort him. Jeremiah did. Is either him or the other guy, Scott, our other guy that works at the bar that was kind of there for the incident? He's babysitting today. His old lady's working, but he's supposed to come in before work today. Because he works the night, so he's going to come give us.
How was he acting before he went to the room?
Kind of like ostentatious. Like when he came back, he was like actually in a good mood. He was like kind of like bubbly, just like kind of in a good mood. And he got a corner room, so that means like he tipped us. I think he tipped us like $10, basically, like in a good mood, happy mood, like everything fine. He's just obviously drinking, having a good time.
When you go to a corner room, what does that mean?
It's just a little bit bigger because he had 2 girls with him. So we got like one room that's like for couples. So like a couple comes in, that way it's like a little more comfortable.
Is there any video of what goes on in the rooms?
Unfortunately, no video.
When when the girl came out, what did she say to you? First time. You said, "Precious." What did she say to you?
To tell you the truth, it was kind of one of those spontaneous things where like it was a situation where people are motherfucking each other. Usually when it happens, hands are put on somebody. Like
did she say he touched her? Or?
I think he might have grabbed her arm, but like I don't know what. Like I don't know what happened. To be honest, you'd have to ask her on that one. But when I came back, it just didn't look good. And then when he blew by me and started swinging, it was like. And then afterwards, too,
after it was over.
This is the weird part. He had a party in there. They had rented the King Tut corner, like the big corner. As soon as you like walk in our front doors, like a big ass corner. He had like a 30-person party with him.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single person in the party with him. He had I think it was like his sister. Somebody came to pick him up.
Okay.
But like we actually told his party, like, hey, we had an issue with one of your guys. I don't even know his name, but like nobody at his party would even know.
Okay. Now, when it's over and everybody, Is Paris still in the bar with you guys?
Yeah, we were told, like, the whole shift continued.
Did she say anything on me or to get kick out?
She didn't really say too much. She was kind of upset that I was trying to get her to come in and make a statement that night, but she was pretty shook up. I didn't really want to talk about it too much.
Who all witnessed what happened? I mean,
Me, Jeremiah, Cyril, actually. Yeah, him, he works at GM. Otherwise, he was, that's his written statement. His phone number and everything's on it.
you see it regular?
Yeah. Comes to the bar, and there's another couple customers that come in again. That's the only customer I have the phone number for, but Marty, another customer, as soon as I see him, I could probably have him write a statement. And he was there, then another customer comes in, he was there.
You know Marty's last name?
I have absolutely no idea.
What about Dave?
It's on my Facebook. I don't know if he saw it though. I think he hangs out over by the DJ booth.
So,
Which is kind of
did this guy ever hit you?
He blew by me and threw like a cold shoulder at me and told me to go fuck myself. Like I'm not.
I mean, did he hit you in the shoulder or he?
Yeah, but I'm not like upset about it. Like whatever. That happens all the time.
What made this escalate to the point that we had to put hands on?
Basically, I tried to stop him because he. I guess where.
You just explain this.
Okay, the VIP is shaped like a hockey stick, kind of like an L. He was like in the back left corner, so when he came out, he had to like walk out, walk this way, and then walk to his left to leave. Okay. So I was like standing like right where it L's, and I was trying to stop him. Then that's where he's like, "Go fuck yourself," and he shouldered me.
You were stopping him for a reason.
I was trying to figure out what happened because it looked like he put his hands on the girls. Usually, a drunk guy goes back with like one girl's bachelor party night, Friday or Saturday. Sometimes, here's where it gets tricky. Like, goes back. It's supposed to be $25. It's not. That's like the standard strip club price for a lap dance in the city or anywhere. Well, when two girls go back, it's $25 per girl per song. Sometimes that causes issues. I don't know if that's what sparked it, or if it was he wanted them to like do like lesbians,
and once he
whatever.
Once he came out, and he was telling you go fuck yourself. Was his hands balled up? Was he? What made him? I'm just trying. What sent this to this guy? Something happened that made this
basically
escalate.
Walked out pissed off over something. The girls were pissed off, obviously. I don't know exactly what happened between everybody. He was fine when he was drunk, but like, he seemed like happy. Like I said, like, he tipped us, like he seemed like in a good mood. So everything was fine when he went in. Something happened back there. I don't know exactly. But when he came out, I was just trying to basically defuse the situation, see what was going on. Like I just want to, like, I like to separate both sides and get everybody's story. That way, if it's a girl's fault, you know, I can take it a couple shifts off, or if it's the customer's fault, I can say, hey, don't fucking come back here. So more or less, I was trying to stop him. He told me to go fuck myself, and just had that. I'm gonna barrel through anybody. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Nobody's stopping me, and more or less, like it kind of felt like when he was walking.
And in no time did nobody strike him.
No, like I came up behind him and tried to tackle him because he was swinging on my guy, but
how close is the VIP to the bathroom?
7, 8 feet.
7, 8 feet.
Probably.
Describe the guy you're talking about. They went to the VIP with the two girls. Describe him.
Alright, it's probably honestly my exact size. Wearing kind of like a shirt like this. I remember like he was wearing like a striped shirt. Maybe a black dude, like this.
You have any hair?
Well dressed, nice. He had a full head of hair. I don't think he was wearing a hat. I can't remember. I don't think he was wearing a hat. No hat, I don't think. I think he was just wearing blue jeans, a striped shirt, if I remember correctly. I think. But big dude, like really like my height, my size.
You said you were trying to defuse the situation. So what did you actually do? You said you came from behind.
More or less, I just tried to stop him. He blew through me, told me to go fuck myself. When he got to Jeremiah, he more or less was like fast-paced walking, and Jeremiah was standing there, and he's like, swing on him, and I came up behind him, kind of like when he was swinging.
You gotta be able to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
kind of swung, and I fish hooked his arm. Kind of like I tried to put him. I don't know if you know.
Full Nelson, yeah.
I put him in a full Nelson.
Okay.
And then, like, right at the entrance, there's a VIP tote, and you got both the pillars. I kind of, like, hit the pillar, went off to the right.
Okay.
He went forward. That's when everything flew off the table. I jumped back up, grabbed him. We both went over the table. We both smacked on the fucking, there's a glass. I don't know how we didn't go through it. There's a glass right there, and we stopped. We stacked all of our wine bottles and everything in. And we almost went through that thing.
Okay. After the incident was over, where did he go after that?
He was laying on the ground. I was laying on the ground. We both kind of just got up. The door guys came back at that point. Manager was right there. Obviously, everything was over at that point.
Did he go out the front door or did he go out the back door?
He went out the back door.
Okay.
Then I think his sister, I think, picked him up.
Okay.
Because nobody from the party wanted to help him.
Okay. So you had a big party. How many people was in the party?
About 30. They ran out the little corner. Like,
nobody came to assist.
Not much.
Did they ever see what happened?
Not a single person from the party went out in the parking lot to check, as far as I know. Like, I'm in the back, but I was asking, I'm like, what the hell happened? And they're like, oh, his sister came and picked him up.
Okay.
And,
all right. You got anything else to add?
oh, is it really?
Okay. Now, what we just did, we was conducting a criminal investigation, so you understood that, correct?
Yeah.
And did you get a chance to talk about what happened on April 24th, 2018? That's when it occurred. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right, brother. That's all we need. That's all we need. Your statement.
Sorry?
For the record, people got to be 15 minutes.
Okay.
Is that, apologize. Is that, I know she stopped it, but yeah. I thought there was
A little bit more after they said, thank you, have a nice day. We're all set.
yeah, I wanted to see the picture. I just wanted to see the rest of it. I think there's more about when he's walking out. Is that right?
Play it till it stops itself.
Thank you. I'm not trying to be difficult to the court. I just wanted to see.
For the record, the people are playing a video at 15 minutes and 24 seconds.
And the intern would be.
That was me.
Okay, I mean, I keep trying to tell y'all this is a bench trial, and y'all keep trying to try it like it's a jury trial. The video was over the first time you stopped it. Let's go.
So, Detective Mason, you got an opportunity to see the video that was played in the courtroom, correct?
Correct.
And the person that, who now we know is Mr. Dinsmore, in the video, who is he describing that he had this tussle with in the opposite car?
Mr. Chris Floyd.
And do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do after you conducted this video interview?
I put Mr. Gilmore in the six pack.
Mr. Detective, pull that mic down.
I'm sorry. I put Mr. Gilmore in the six pack and I notified Mr. Floyd as another lineup I'm looking at.
Say that again, Detective Mason.
I put Mr. Gilmore in the six pack, a lineup. I notified Mr. Floyd that I had another lineup I'm looking at and advised him to come in.
Okay. And what happened after you advised Mr. Floyd to come in?
Mr. Floyd came in, we conducted the lineup, and he made his pick.
Okay.
Your Honor, ma'am, you may.
Mason looking at the document I just handed you, do you know what that document is?
The photo lineup, show Mr. Floyd.
Okay, and has that photo lineup been changed or altered in any way?
No,
Does, I believe it's already been admitted to evidence.
Yes.
I don't know.
It is.
And for the record, I'm showing, Detective Mason the same photo lineup that's been admitted to evidence. I don't know what it's been marked as, but Detective Mason, after you conducted that photo lineup, did you do anything else?
had an interview with Mr. Floyd, and he's changed to say that there were some other people involved.
Okay,
I apologize. You said you interviewed Mr. Floyd and then he changed his statement and said there were some other people involved?
No, he continued to say that there were other people involved.
He continued to say that there were other, okay, thank you.
okay, do you recall how many other people were involved regarding the Mr. Floyd, from what Mr. Floyd told?
Well, after the three people came in and gave me an interview, I also included another person in the 6-pack that Mr. Floyd also did not pick up.
Okay. And who was in that lineup, that Mr. Floyd did not pick out?
Jeremiah Bocan.
And is that one of the people that you testified earlier that came down for the interview?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what did you do after that?
After that, after showing that lineup, Mr. Floyd stated that he had a person on his phone, the one that saw him, and he emailed me the photo of the person.
Okay, and do you recall, when he sent you that email?
That was around May 28th.
Okay, and was this after the lineup you did previously for the other people involved?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you do after, Mr. Floyd sent you that, photo?
I tried to get in contact with the manager, showing the photo of the person that was sent to me, and he identified it as Mr. Nebraska.
Okay, and what did you do with that information?
And Mr. Nebraska threw a lean check, put him in the lineup. Contact Mr. Floyd again, as he come in, I said, lineup, look at it again.
Okay.
So for the record, Ms. Ritter, did you show Detective, Mason, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant's exhibit E, when you showed him that lineup? Was that defendant's exhibit E?
That was defendant exhibit E, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. May I approach you?
You may.
And when you're done looking at that document, Detective Mason, this was it. Do you recognize the document I just handed you, Detective Mason?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recognize that document to be?
Photo lineup of Mr. Nebraska.
Okay, and is that the same photo lineup that you conducted with Mr. Floyd?
Yes, ma'am.
And has that photo lineup been changed, altered, deleted, or anything?
No. And one more thing, that lineup was conducted with Officer Wahlberg.
Okay, and do you recall what date that lineup was?
That was June 14th.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, the people who submit people's proposed exhibit 5 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
I have no objection.
Court is gonna admit people's exhibit 5.
May I, or I'm sorry, Judge, may the people publish people's exhibit 5 to the court?
You may.
May I approach it?
You may.
And after you conducted that lineup, Detective Mason, did you do anything further regarding this investigation?
Yes, I did. So I don't recall the investigation dates. I did have Mr. Nebraska come in. I did interview him.
And the interview with Mr. Aransky was, did you tell him to come in?
I think I talked to the manager, he advised, he came in volunteer.
Okay. And did you do anything else regarding, the investigation after you interviewed Mr. Bryant?
After I did that, I submitted a warrant.
Okay, and I'm sorry, let me jump back, just for a minute, Detective Mason, the person you're referring to is Mr. Bryant that came down to make a statement. Did you see that person in the courtroom?
Yes, the gentleman, he has a black hoodie on, third or to your left, first gentleman, black hoodie on.
Okay, and then you said after that you submitted the warrant, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You may.
I have no further questions for the court. What are we doing? I will give you the exhibit now. May I approach you? Okay.
Cross-examination. On behalf of Mr. Spencer, any cross-examination? Listen, I say we're going in the same order.
Oh, okay,
We're not gonna-
okay, I got it, I got it.
I thought you did.
Um, Sir, you had an occasion to interview Mr. Floyd on how many different occasions?
Does it over 6 lineups. So each time he came in. Maybe 6.
You've been here throughout the whole trial, correct?
Correct.
So you heard Mr. Floyd say how he gave the police department his telephone logs.
I do want to correct, I'm guessing. Approach. Everybody? Yeah, I mean, you can, I just wanted to say something, but I'm not gonna say it on the record. I wanted to correct, or I wanted to remind.
Okay, good, let me rephrase my question.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
But I'm like.
Okay.
Okay.
Detective Mason, you haven't been here throughout the whole trial. There was a time the court allowed you to leave for a little while, right?
Correct.
So you may not have heard all of Mr. Floyd's testimony. True?
True.
Okay, so during your investigation, did Mr. Floyd ever provide you with information from his telephone logs?
No.
So if he were to say that he provided you with information regarding his telephone logs to trace his phone calls and things, he would be mistaken.
Correct.
Because clearly, if you had telephone logs, you'd turn them over to us.
Correct.
And I'm sure you've done a complete review of your file, because it's not like this case hasn't been around for a little while. And we have gotten everything that was ever given to you during the course of your investigation.
Correct.
So would it be a fair and accurate statement that on April 23rd at about 5 o'clock, you met with Mr. Floyd to take a statement?
Initial one, correct,
Yeah, that's this 3-page document we have.
yes,
And you're, gosh, you're long in the tooth, you're an experienced detective, and you reviewed these questions with Mr. Floyd,
yes,
and you went, and in fact, his signatures on the bottom of each page.
correct,
Do you need to see this to refresh your recollection?
yes, sir,
Okay, because we have it as a marked exhibit,
okay,
if you want, exhibit F.
But not admitted, marked but not admitted.
Oh, okay.
But he could review it if
I
he
mean,
needs to.
he said he doesn't need it, I'll
Yes.
ask. So on the bottom of each page is Mr. Floyd's signature,
correct,
because you reviewed the questions and answers with him as you proceeded along during that interview, correct?
correct,
And you, these documents are pretty important for your investigation. Would that be a fair statement?
yes,
Because this gives you a direction and it's close in time to the incident, and you want to get as much information as possible.
Correct.
So as we're sitting here, one of the questions is you talked about the 2 black males that grabbed your arm.
Judge, I'm objecting.
So on what basis? The basis of your objection? Why are you talking low, Ms. Reed?
Hearsay, Judge.
Okay, I apologize. I think the question was that you were asking him if he asked Mr. Floyd about a particular thing and you read it from the report, correct?
I'm asking him what he wrote down as a question. And asked him, did he ask him that question?
I'll allow it.
Sir, did you ask him, what about the 2 black males that grabbed your arms? Could you describe them? You asked him that question.
correct.
Why is that important?
Establish who our suspects are.
And on April 23rd, could he help you establish who your suspects were? The 2 black males.
So April 23rd.
I said, did I say April 23rd?
Yeah.
Yeah, on April 2, I'll show you the April 23rd. So did his response help you identify the 2 black males?
From his description he gave?
Not the one I gave, yeah, the one he gave.
Counsel, don't be arguing.
Oh, he knows I'm not arguing. Let me show you what he said.
Yes,
Oh,
I remember one description.
okay, may I approach with exhibit F that has not been admitted
You may.
to refresh it?
I'm gonna make a decision in a minute. I forgot, and I'm calling for the attorney to look something up for.
See at the bottom there, sir? Okay, so going back to my question, if I can remember, I'll approach and get that from you, sir, thank you. Was he able to help you in describing who the black males were that he says grabbed his arms?
Generic, it was a generic description. One had dreadlock, a predator, and they were both heavy built.
Okay. And he basically said he had no further information,
Correct,
that he couldn't tell you about. Correct? That he couldn't see him,
you couldn't see the person that grabbed him from the back.
but he saw somebody with predator hair. That's the only objective something he could see.
Correct.
Did you go into the Coliseum to get the lay of the land? No pun intended. To see where the rooms were, where the bathroom was and that kind of stuff?
No, I went to review and to look at the video.
Okay,
I
that,
apologize.
I went to review the video.
Okay.
and so did you take any pictures in the Coliseum?
No, I did not.
Did you, hear prior to the testimony in this case that Mr., and I don't know if you were here for this, that he said that when he walked out of the bathroom, he was approached and his back was to the bathroom door?
I did hear it.
Okay. When you went to the Coliseum, was there a bathroom door?
I don't know.
Not as you recall?
No, sir.
Okay. So it'd be,
No, not that I recall that there was or was not.
wouldn't that be important to try to verify his story?
Still coming out of the bathroom.
Well, there's a door, no door, that's kind of important because he made a big deal out of his back to the door when all these guys came around him, so I'll rephrase the question. Did you look at the men's bathroom?
No, I did not.
Did you look at the VIP room?
No, I did not.
Did you look where he was sitting, if he was able to describe the area he was sitting?
No, I did not.
Did you look to see whether there was any verification of any purchases by him that evening?
No, I did not.
Do you know if anybody at your direction did any of that stuff?
No, I don't recall.
Did, other than the people that you say the Coliseum allowed you to interview at your office, did you make any attempts to interview any of the other folks that may have been suggested as witnesses?
After the video with Mr. Digmore,
Well, after the interview, not the video. After the interview, did you go talk to anybody else?
which I called the phone call that he gave with me, there's no contact.
And who'd you call?
He provided a piece of paper with a name on it, one of the customers.
Okay, so why isn't that in your police file?
There was no contact with the person.
So you got a piece of evidence from an interview with a witness that you've eventually charged, and that's not in your police file?
No, it's not.
What'd you do with it?
Don't recall.
We saw in the video that Mr. Dittmer got up, reached into his pocket and unfolded a sheet of paper, correct? Can you sit here today and, was it a white piece of paper, a yellow piece of paper?
No, I don't recall. It was probably.
And what was that piece of paper?
A name with a phone number.
Okay, and was there a statement on it?
I don't recall the statement.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you a photocopy.
Okay.
And I want to see if you can recall that photocopy. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I don't know what my next number is, but this is gonna be proposed, whatever.
You want me, you making me keep up?
No,
with,
ma'am, I've got
P2.
I got the P7 help working on it.
P7, whose last name is also,
Jones.
Sherbo, you need to help him with his
I
letters.
think we're on J. Okay.
May I show you, exhibits?
Yeah, cause that one on the wall is I, isn't that one on the wall I?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Now, I understand this is a photocopy, but does that ring up any bells to you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so if I were to tell you, if we get that far, that somebody's gonna say that is the letter, you just don't recall.
I've never seen this other one.
Well, you've never seen that one, but you saw the yellow one you don't have now, right?
Correct.
Okay,
It was
so,
not a letter. I think it was a sticky note.
well, we could go back and play it. You unfolded, it was a letter, and it was by Cyril Anilil, Analil. You don't recall looking at any notes?
No.
Okay. Then I'm not gonna move to admit this.
Okay.
How many times did you call that name and number to try to verify or not verify what happened?
Maybe once.
Did you go on the lien system like you did for these guys and try to get their pictures, their names, their driver's license? You just let it go?
Of a potential witness who did not come in? No, I did not.
And you did not provide that potentially exculpatory evidence to the defense lawyers.
No objection, it's moving back to the defense.
What facts did you just assume there wasn't an,
It's going to. And
he said potentially, I thought.
I did.
He said potentially, which is allowable, overruled.
You didn't give us that. You didn't give the prosecutor's office that. You didn't give that.
If you watched the video, correct? He handed it to Detective Thomas. I did not receive that, so I told him anything about it.
You were in the room, right?
Correct.
In Hamilton. I wish I was in the room. You were in the room when it was turned over to the police department, correct?
Okay.
I mean,
Yes, I was in the room.
okay. And you're the chief.
No.
Well, you're the officer in charge.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I meant. When you went to the Coliseum, it would be, I think you said the loop on the videos were 72 hours?
Yes.
Okay, so this event happened really in the evening, at late, middle of the night. Strike that. This event happened at 9 o'clock or so on the 20th. And if Mr. Floyd comes to you at 5 o'clock on the 23rd, when did you go to the Coliseum to check out the videos?
I would like to say that I went to the Coliseum on the 23rd, around about in the afternoon.
Okay, so that's within the 72 hours.
That would be 4 days. If it happened on the 20th to 23rd, would be 4 days. Only holds for 3 days.
Even though it happened at 9 o'clock at night. Okay. Would it be a fair statement that Mr. Floyd did give a statement to someone at the police department in the early morning hours of April 21st?
He made a police statement to anybody.
You said he made a police report, statements are taken by detectives. Thank you.
And,
1 second, counsel, 1 second. That's all right.
Okay.
In terms of why the judge
You-
dismissed Faison.
Right. Was there evidence showed to you, did you do an investigation as to whether Faison was there or not?
I was unable to conduct an investigation on why he wasn't there or not.
No. Did you do an investigation as to whether he was at the Coliseum on April 18th? Or April 20th, 2018?
I put him in the lineup after I got the, information from Lieutenant White, and then Mr. Floyd picked him out of the station.
I understand that.
Yes.
But eventually, did you do an ongoing investigation to determine whether or not Faison was there or not?
No, I didn't.
You were aware that Mr. Faison said he wasn't there.
I had no contact with Mr. Faison.
You were aware that Mr. Obrowski said he wasn't there,
Correct,
because you have a video of Mr. Obrowski, correct?
correct. He came
But
to
it's
talk-
lost.
Yes.
I'm just trying to make a connection. And I know I've been chastised before about.
Bobby?
Yes.
We not chastise you with P2, P number.
What'd you say? I can't remember.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I just am having a difficult time, sir, on how Faison's not here. And how if he's picked out of the lineup and you have no other investigation other than Mr. Floyd, what evidence is there in your file that substantiates that Faison was or wasn't there? Or for that matter, Spencer, because you have no different evidence with Mr. Spencer.
So I'm going to not allow the witness to answer because you're asking this witness why the felony judge dismissed Mr. Faison from this case. And
Okay, I got it.
now you can ask him if, which he already answered, he did no investigation about Mr. Faison.
Okay, I'll ask another question. Did you do any investigation regarding Mr. Spencer?
I was unable to find out Mr. Spencer was there. Mr. Spencer refused to give me a statement.
So what did you do? Did you talk to people at the office at Coliseum about whether Spencer was there or in the front or in the back or in the toilet or anywhere?
But
Other than Mr. Floyd's word and his stellar picking out of a race, do you have any evidence that Mr. Spencer was involved in this?
I did not.
So the whole submission to the prosecutor's office is based on what Mr. Floyd tells you.
I told investigation.
I'm sorry.
No, not told investigation.
What else do you have to bring Mr. Spencer into this other than what Mr. Floyd said?
That was it.
Okay. Did you ever get a copy of Mr. Floyd's medical records?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you see in those medical records that the blood serum at 12:36 was 0.242?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to your, I don't know what you call them, the men at the station when you came in that night twice to see whether or not he was inebriated or intoxicated to interview your guys?
Yes.
And is that in these statements here somewhere as to what they perceive?
They only mentioned Officer Tanner and Detective Barnes or Officer Barnes at the time. So Mr. Spencer came into the station.
Well, the question did not call for hearsay, but your witness is answering hearsay. He asked him, did he? And then he started telling us what was said. So the answer is hearsay, and I'll strike the answer.
So Tanner was one of the guys that talked to him?
Yes.
And Tanner made a report?
Yes,
Is Tanner the one who sent him to the hospital?
someone sent him to the hospital.
Okay, so Tanner's the one at 4:55 in the morning. Did you review Tanner's report in preparation of trying to issue a warrant?
He came in with injuries, Mr. Floyd came in with injuries?
I'm sorry.
And Mr. Floyd came in with injuries?
No, that, did you review Tanner's report? He wrote a report, right?
I did review, but I don't recall what he said at this point.
Did you talk to Tanner in preparation of your warrant and your ongoing investigation?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay, so when Tanner writes that Floyd tells him that two brothers was holding my arms, I couldn't tell what they looked.
Counsel, there's an objection. You gotta speak up.
That calls for hearsay, Judge, I'm sorry.
I'm just asking, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted, I just want to know whether he relied on that when he made his ongoing investigation, because Tanner says something here that he would have reviewed.
He's reading from a
I know,
To quote,
right, and so with respect to the quote, you said you're asking the witness whether he relied on that in his investigation?
sure.
I think I would know.
Okay, sir, this is is it usual to put quotes in a police report like this?
What the victim said or what someone said?
Yeah, so for example, Mr. Tanner says, Christopher Floyd stated, quote, "They grabbed me as soon as I walked out the bathroom. Two brothers was holding my arms. I couldn't tell what they looked like." You recall reviewing that?
Yes.
Okay. It'd be a fair
I
statement.
thought your question was, did he rely on it?
Did you rely on it?
Not for, I read it.
No. Because even then, he didn't know who allegedly attacked him, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you for your patience, sir. Nothing out of practice.
All right, any cross-examination on behalf of Mr. Didmore?
Yes.
Okay. And can I receive exhibit, oh, they might be using it, I'm sorry. That's that, lineup, you all are using it.
Yes, I'm gonna use just.
Did you have another copy?
I can get you one. I
That's
got
not
one.
the line, that's not what I need. What are you all waiting on? Not the six pack, the statement. Can I get a
Yes,
copy of that statement?
yes,
So when the
I get it
lawyer
right to
comes
you,
in,
Judge.
Yeah.
I got it.
I'm gonna ask a couple questions.
right, but if I can get an
I
extra copy.
got
just want-
it. I got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Farina, you may proceed.
Okay, investigator, when you looked at this exhibit E, and you can see it there, or should I come close?
Let me see, man.
Mr. Ditmore is right in the front, right, in the top corner,
Yeah,
visible, but Mr. Floyd picked out another gentleman, correct?
correct.
He didn't pick Mr. Ditmore, correct?
No,
So, then you had Mr. Floyd come down and give a statement, correct?
Yes.
And you took that statement, correct?
Yeah.
And you take statements on many of your cases, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
As officer, when you take a witness statement, do you write what you think the case is about, or do you get the information from the witness?
I'm the witness.
And then did you have him write?
I wrote that down.
You wrote that down, correct? And you typically, if you take a case and you write down a statement, you take the statement from what the witness says to you.
Correct.
Do you then just have the witness sign it, or do you have the witness read it?
We reviewed the statement
You review the statement.
before we signed.
And you have a section that says, did you get a chance to review your statement? And he says, yes, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if he got on the stand and said that he did not review the statement, that would be a lie, correct?
That would be incorrect if he did not review the statement.
That would be a lie, correct?
Council, his answer is it would be incorrect.
That would be incorrect. And you saw the video that we had. So when you first testified, you said that how when Mr. Ditmore, you met Mr. Ditmore, you were alone with Mr. Ditmore, correct?
Yes.
But that's not true because you had Detective Thomas
Yes,
state.
yes, Councilman, yes.
So it was
Hold on, let him finish his question. You said that's not true because you had Detective Thomas.
Detective Thomas there with you asking questions as well, correct?
Correct.
And I this is really crazy. I just want to just, as a housekeeping matter, when you come into 11th precinct, there's a security
Yeah.
station, right? Then you gotta walk about 20, 30 feet, and you get to the front desk where sergeants, lieutenants sit, right?
Yes.
And then a detective has to come through the door, because the door is locked, that leads to the investigators and detectives, correct?
No, no.
All right, well, it's closed,
Oh,
correct?
no, you all have, Ms. Ritter, I don't know if they can hear you, and they stand right here next to you. So you're gonna have to speak up. And then when there is an objection, you all are gonna have to stop talking. Okay, objection as to,
I'm just going down to my first questions about what happened and what, with this, I'm leading to it, I just have to see a foundation.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. So, but there's a door there that nobody from the public can just walk through, correct?
Correct.
And then when you get past that door, you come to about maybe 10 feet, and the detective bureau is off to the left, and there's a door there, correct? On the left-hand side.
To my office?
Yeah, to get to
Yes.
your, yeah, okay. And then when you walk through that door, there's a podium where you can't just jump past there. That's where all the detectives are in the open air. Is that fair to say? And someone has to let you back into there, correct?
Okay. You went to too many doors.
Sorry. So you come to where the detective, now I'm coming through the door, the detectives are all laid out.
Yes, open space.
Right, okay, but there's a barrier, there's
That's
a,
for the interview room.
no, when you come there and you stand there at the podium, then the detectives can see you, correct?
Yes.
All right, but there's still a barrier, you don't just walk into the
They just
detective
don't want
area.
me to know.
All right, so they gotta get past that door to get to the detective, right? All right, so to get out of there, you gotta walk through a lot of barriers. So, isn't that right?
So. How you're entering into the office, change that direction. You know that.
Someone just can't walk.
but I don't know it, so let's answer the question like y'all talking to me.
Okay, so ma'am, you come into our office, there are two doors. There's one directly to the detective office, with open space, all our seats are at. Then there's an interview room. Okay, I took him to our office, so I went through the back door, to our office, one door, and had him sit down.
Yeah. And there was two of you there, but there were other detectives before you got to that room, all with open space that you'd have to get past to get to that room, correct?
So you're familiar, you come to the first door, you know that, there's open space in the interview office. Then there's our office on the back end, he came in our office on the back end. The one door.
After you go through the podium and everything
The
else.
point is made,
I'll move on, I'll
Mr.
move on,
Farina,
I'll
move
move on.
on.
I'll move on. Now, you were asked a question about the exhibit, about Mr. Cyril and Aaliyah, okay? And, that was, I saw in the video, Mr. Ditmore give you a folded up paper.
Gives you to take the time.
But you were there.
Yes.
And you're the officer in charge.
Yes.
And you would normally take it, since you're the officer in charge of the case, you would take it from Thomas and look at it because it's potential evidence of potential exculpatory material, correct?
Correct,
So, and you're saying you looked at it and you made one call, correct?
yes.
And this document doesn't look familiar to you.
No, it does not.
But in your investigation, you said you went to the club, okay?
Yes,
And Mr. Ditmore told you that there was a Cyril there, there was, some other people there that worked there. You didn't talk to any of those people in your investigation?
he gave me one piece of paper, I called that phone number.
Right.
I initially went to the club before I talked to Mr. Denver, which was a month before, to get the video.
Let me ask you something. Did you talk to the DJ that works right there by the VIP? Did you talk to the DJ?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to the cooks that are right there in the area? Did you talk to any of the cooks or bar backs, they call them, that come in and out? Did you talk to them?
No, I did not.
Did you talk to the guy that works in the bathroom every day at the club, in the men's bathroom? Did you talk to him?
No, I did not.
All right, so you didn't talk to anybody there. And then you listened to the story Mr. Ditmore said, okay? And you interviewed some of the Paris Floyd and some of the other girls there, correct?
Correct.
And they told you a completely different story than what Mr. Floyd is saying, correct?
Correct.
In fact, they told you a story, and I'm sorry, before I go down. Did you ask Mr. Floyd how many drinks he had?
I think I did at the time.
Did you write it down, how many drinks he had?
I don't recall.
I don't see that in the statement. If you took, did you put it, I might have missed it. Did you put it in here?
I have to review to see.
Oh, if I may approach you.
You can.
Look at that statement. Sorry, so you did not put anywhere in here that Mr. Floyd had been drinking that night,
No, I
correct?
did not.
You didn't put that he stopped off at Floyd's or where he stopped off before he got to the club,
I
correct?
did not.
Wouldn't you think as an investigator, if that would be material information to your investigation, if Mr. Floyd had been drunk or not, or inebriated, don't you think that's an important issue to put in the statement?
Yeah, but that's no argument.
I'm not arguing, I'm just asking.
Something can be argumentative without you arguing. However, the objection is overruled.
Don't you think that's a material element to put or include when you're asking questions to Mr. Floyd, sir?
Yes, but that's why his medical records were requested.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what you said.
That's why his medical records were requested.
When you looked at his medical records and you didn't see that they had a 2.42 serum, you didn't put that anywhere in your report, correct?
Correct.
So basically, you hid the fact that Mr. Floyd had been drinking significantly that night, correct?
Incorrect.
Did you include it in your report?
It was included, his medical records that were included
I
in.
didn't ask his medical. You're not his doctor. I'm asking, did you include it in your report?
No, it's not included. No,
Okay, so and did you include it in his statement?
I did not ask him what he drank.
Okay, but then you had the medical record. Did you go back and ask him how much he'd been drinking that night or if he'd been drinking?
No, I did not.
You have an opportunity to do what's called a supplemental report. Did you do that?
No, I did not.
So all we have is that, and you would agree that if someone had been drinking at a 2.42 level, you have experience working with people inebriated, drunk drivers, things like that. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
And a 2.42 level at 12:30. That's a high EAC or high level of alcohol content, correct?
correct.
And isn't it fair to say that it could affect someone's memory?
Judge, objection to your property.
I'm just saying if it could.
And
Okay. Then, sir, when you saw that, Article .242 in the medical records, wouldn't it behoove you to not take Mr. Floyd's statement as absolute truth and do further investigation to see if there's another version of actually what happened?
I did conduct that investigation.
You did, but you didn't talk to you didn't talk to the.
Let's not go back over that though.
All right.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
Okay. On behalf of Mr. Abrams.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
We can't hear you.
Good afternoon, Detective Mason.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, so, I'm just gonna try to get right to what I want to talk to you about. Would you say that during your interview with Mr. Ditmore that he was sober?
Yes,
Okay, so he didn't appear to be intoxicated with alcohol or anything like that, right?
Mr. Dillon?
Mr. Ditmore?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so, how many photo arrays do you think you put together by the time that Mr. Floyd picks Mr. Abramski out of the photo?
6, maybe 7.
Okay, so you had met with him at least 6 or 7 times?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, and, Detective Mason, were you able as an investigator to formulate an opinion as an investigator about Mr. Abramski's involvement in this situation?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that opinion that you as an investigator formulated?
From the description I got, the police report and the statement, Mr. Floyd,
Yes,
the gentleman that saw him was approximately like 5'10", medium build.
okay,
Upon meeting Mr. Bransky, he was 6'3".
okay, all right. So is it fair to say that Mr. Abramski really was not on your radar?
Correct.
Okay, how did that change?
Mr. Floyd provided me with a picture of Mr. Bransky saying, "This is the guy."
Okay, and about how many photo arrays did you done by the time you got that picture?
That was like 6.
Okay, all right. And so Mr. Floyd has Mr. Ditmore tells you that there are about 6 or 7 other people that he named that are present during the time of this incident, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and one of those individuals you actually put in the photo array, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did Mr. Floyd pick that individual out?
No, he didn't.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna just show you something. Yeah, approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Okay, so you put one of these individuals that Mr. Ditmore identifies as having present, put in the photo, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you formulate an opinion as to, in terms of that individual who's in the array? Did you formulate an opinion as to why Mr. Floyd picks Mr. Abramski instead of that individual?
No.
Okay, did you think that Mr. Floyd confused Mr. Abramski with that individual? As an investigator,
Oh,
as an investigator, did you come to a conclusion that Mr. Floyd confused Mr. Abramski with Mr. Bocana?
As an investigator, there was a height difference. So 5'10" and 6'3", big difference. But he provided me with the picture of Mr. Harrison, was adamant that he was.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna go to that then. So, you get how far are you into your investigation by the time you get this picture?
2 months.
Okay. Did you ask Mr. Floyd why you're just getting this picture?
Yeah, we had a conversation.
What did he say?
I'm sorry, objection here.
Okay, so, did he give you an explanation as to why he had just given you the picture?
No, not clear.
He didn't give you a clear explanation. Did he tell you how long he had the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So did you have an opportunity to hear Mr. Floyd testify as to when that picture was taken?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did he tell you how he got the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, did he tell you that his friend Larry or somebody took the picture?
Very massive, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, did he tell you that Larry took the picture the night of the?
All of this is hearsay. I mean, there's no objection going forward, but I mean, I guess, so you want me to just let it keep going, I know you do. But it's all hearsay.
So shall I stop?
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
Okay.
you want to keep going and,
Okay, all right. So. Is it fair to say, detective, that you never would have included Mr. Abramski in a photo array at all? If Mr. Floyd had never given you that photo 2 months into the investigation?
Correct.
All right, I don't have anything further.
any redirect?
Very briefly.
All right,
Detective Mason, just going back to your testimony, regarding the lineup with, well, you testified that there was a lineup done with the 2 African-American, males that assaulted Mr. Floyd, correct?
Correct.
And you testified that, Mr. Floyd picked out both individuals in the lineup, correct?
Correct.
And both of those individuals were further investigated, correct?
Object, as the foundation, forget the objection. Forget the objection,
okay,
because that's not what he said.
okay, continue.
I'll rephrase the question, Judge.
Why? He said it was okay, let's go.
Do you recall testifying that Mr. Faison and Mr. Spencer was further investigated into this case?
I attempted.
You attempted,
Yes, ma'am.
but why couldn't you
He
further?
refused to speak to me.
No further questions.
Ooh, okay,
I'd like-
recross,
No, I'd like to, I don't have any other questions. I just want to wish the detective a great wedding for his child.
oh, well, that's nice, I'm not finished, stay put. Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, Detective.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have it up here with, there's an exhibit with Mr. Ditmore as, in a lineup. Can I see that exhibit with Mr. Ditmore in the lineup?
I get it, Judge.
Thank you.
Next approach.
You may, I know, and they just working you. So my question is, the picture, I understand Mr. Ditmore was not selected.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The picture that you put in this, defense exhibit E of Mr. Ditmore, where did you get that picture from? Mr. Ditmore's picture.
We usually get the pictures from, Secretary of State Returns.
So the picture that you have on here would be Mr. Ditmore's most recent Secretary of State picture
Yes, ma'am.
at the time of this incident.
Yes, ma'am.
The picture that I see of Mr. Ditmore on this 6-pack
Mhm.
appears to also look like the person that was in the video, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How long after the actual incident did you interview Mr. Ditmore on that video that I saw today?
That would be in the statement. Let me refer back to the dates.
They refer back to it, whatever the date of statement was. If you need to use your report to refresh your recollection.
You may.
So approximately a month later,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And this recent Secretary of State picture, that you put in here, you did that, after you interviewed Mr. Gibb.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, at any time, did you see a picture of Mr. Didmore with long hair?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And then, with respect to Mr. Abramski, is that the same thing? This is his Secretary of State picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, help me understand something. You received some general identifications of some individuals who were at the scene of this alleged assault. Received some descriptions from the witness,
Correct.
Mr. Floyd.
Yes, ma'am.
After receiving those descriptions, you never, had Mr. Abramski in your radar.
No, ma'am.
And then Mr. Floyd brought you a picture and said, this is a guy.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you this question. Why did you then put Mr. Abramski in a lineup? I guess that's where I'm confused. Somebody bring you a picture and say, this is a guy that did something to me. And then you take that guy and put him in a lineup to see if they're gonna pick the guy again? Just explain how that worked to me.
So with our identifications, he has never met Mr. Branson before. So I can't do a single photo say, hey, how do you know? Like if I say, how do you know this guy? He said, I never met this guy. So I put him in a 6-pack from a current picture. And I don't know, that picture was taken of him the night of Mr. Branson.
So somebody told you it was taken the night of?
Yes.
Thank you, Your
And
Honor.
then,
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. Have a seat. Somebody told you it was taken the night of, and then you said, let me get his Secretary of State picture.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I think my final question to you,
Okay.
Detective, is with respect to the individuals that you did speak to. So, the individuals that you did speak to. To abide by all the rules of evidence in my mind, okay. Did anyone that you spoke with, strike that question, in the course of your investigation, did you speak with anyone that confirmed, maybe not confirmed, that
Corroborated.
supported, okay. Let me just ask a question because it's late and I just want to get a question out, and if it's an improper question, once I get it out, I'll try to rephrase it.
Okay.
Did anyone, tell you that they saw Mr. Didmore, not Mr. Didmore, that they saw Mr. Floyd leave the Coliseum with injury? Do you understand my question?
Yes.
Okay, so you were in the courtroom, Mr. Floyd testified that he was, put out the back door.
Mhm.
Did you speak with anyone that saw Mr. Floyd after this alleged incident, before he was outside outside on the curb?
So during my investigation, after hearing Mr. Didmore say that he went out the back door after they had a tussle, he came to the station,
Who is he?
Ms. Floyd.
Thank
He
you.
came to, he came to the station, the officer saw the injuries to his face, took him to the hospital immediately. I tried to put him at the Coliseum incident, coming to the station, officers observing him, because they weren't seeing that he left out the back door after a tussle, that his injuries came from there. And him saying in the statement that he was injured at the Coliseum.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions based on my questions on behalf of the people?
Just one quick question.
Okay,
So Detective Mason, you received the, what I want to say, cabaret licenses from Lieutenant White.
Yes.
that's not based on my question.
It's not good. I'll leave my question. Never mind. No question.
'Cause I didn't ask nothing else about those
I know.
dance cards. On behalf of Mr. Spencer, based on my question.
I have nothing for.
On behalf of Mr. Ditmore,
I am.
on behalf of Mr. Abramski.
Nothing for.
Thank you, Detective, you may step down. All right. People's next witness. Oh, you were off the ground. The people's next witness.
The people have no further with.
The people rest.
The people do rest.
All right. Okay, the people have rested. And with respect to that, okay, I guess I'm gonna continue to take everybody out of order. Anything on behalf of defendant Spencer,
In terms of a motion to dismiss, Your Honor?
in terms of anything?
Well, there are witnesses available, but I would like to make a motion to dismiss. I don't believe that they
Okay,
sustained any question of fact or to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that anything happened. It's unrebutted testimony, improperly investigated and not brought to the court. There's absolutely no evidence other than an alcohol-induced executive function deficit incident that's uncorroborated. I think that was the word you were looking for. There's no corroboration. The police didn't investigate. The police didn't give us all the information, and that there's absolutely no verification of any sort, because in the police reports, Mr. Floyd says, I don't know, there was a guy with dreadlocks and somebody I couldn't identify as it relates to my client, Corey Spencer. So, and basically, due to that, I would move to have the case dismissed as to Mr. Spencer.
on behalf of Mr. Abramski, with respect to strike that, no, Mr. Farina, you're correct. I'm looking dead at Mr. Ditmore and saying Abramski.
Yes, Judge, thank you. You know, I would concur with my, what counsel has just stated. And I would add also, Judge, the last words of the witness, the investigator, was a tussle. At least 2 times he used it, a tussle. That's completely different than a statement given by the complaining witness that he was grabbed and assaulted and punched without any explanation of why. The only story that made any sense was what the prosecution presented by Mr. Ditmore on the video, which was, I'm working back there, there's a motion in the back, I step up, I'm pushed aside, he goes and swings and I stop him, okay? That's all we have. Mr. Floyd goes into a drama of a predator putting him in a chokehold. And now I looked at his statement and I think, in all due respect to this court, what the investigator said was the fact that you claim you did not review your statement given. And I'm sitting there taking your statement. That's inaccurate to get on the stand because it has information that you don't like. You're going to sit here and tell us that it's completely, I never even looked at it. I never even reviewed it. And the detective says, yeah, I review this, what I do. That's disrespectful to this court and to us trying to put this this matter together, Judge. I would say the credibility, the story, and what's presented by that witness falls far short. This beyond a reasonable doubt. There's doubt created. The fact that you picked 3 witnesses out that weren't even there, or allegedly weren't there. And the only reason you got Mr. Ditmore, you look right at him and you don't pick him. And as the court correctly asked, was his hair long? No, I didn't see any evidence according to the investigator of that. But his picture was only 30 days after the incident. I took a picture again from him when he came in. He looked the same on the video. It wasn't picked up. And when the expert testified as to the alcohol content, I think I used the word behooves because if I see a .242,
I normally wouldn't do this, Mr. Bryant. No. I only want to say this. With respect to the expert's testimony, as it relates to the
I see.
motion to
That's right,
dismiss,
that's right.
yes, I'm not considering that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
So yes, I think that how the credibility of the witness, the story presented, what we heard, that if you balance it, Judge, what my client said, I fought to keep it out, but what it says is credible. It makes sense. He doesn't say, I can't recall anything that might be negative, but it says exactly what happened, and he came in. Now, whether I argue it was consensual or what, he came in and he cooperated on video with the spirit of maturity. And if I was the detective in charge, I would have asked the credibility of the complaining witness where you're drinking. I see .242 in your system at 12:30. Could you have been wrong? Instead of taking one story and running with the judge, and that's what happened in this case. And I asked that this be dismissed against my client.
On behalf of Mr. Abramski,
On behalf of Mr. Abramski, Your Honor, we move for directed verdict at this time. Even considering our motion in light most favorable to the people, Your Honor, the people do have a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and they've rested their case. So everything that they have, they will, by way of proof, they've already put out to the court, to the trier of fact. So I'm gonna just ask the court to take a look at the fact of the matter, that all of their proofs rest upon the credibility of one individual, and that's Mr. Floyd. Mr. Floyd, who is clearly, with or without the assistance of the expert, clearly intoxicated at the time of the incident, Your Honor. Taking a look at the fact that his version of the events, he has an opportunity to testify, or excuse me, to give a recollection that's made of an event that he cannot accurately perceive because he's so intoxicated. He tells one story at the time that he makes his statement to the police. And in that story, he's attacked by either 2 bald black men or 1 bald black man and a man who has dreads like, or locks like a predator, and a white guy who is 5'10", or a different white guy. And then he gets into his deposition that we talked about. He's attacked by some other people. And then when he comes to court, he comes out of a bathroom, Your Honor, comes and he's up against the door of the bathroom, Your Honor, which we're not even sure exists. And he's surrounded by 5 people. 5 people, and that might be some black guys or some white guys or whatever have you. Somebody surrounds him, and he gets put in a chokehold, and then he is getting gouged, and his eyes are being knuckled, and the wounds around his eyes are all being knuckled, and he's bleeding from the face. He's been hit in the face like 10 times or something like that. And with all that, he musters the strength to kick Mr. Ditmore, and he's kicking Mr. Ditmore. Then he says to Mr. Abramski, who he sees standing off at a distance, and he's able to observe that while he's under attack. He first sees Mr. Abramski standing off at a distance, and then Mr. Abramski comes over and kicks him, and then they get in, then he starts beating him up and all this other kind of stuff, and he knows it's Mr. Abramski, even though his face is pressed into the floor. All of that testimony is absolutely I'm not gonna call him a liar or anything like that, but it's not to be believed. It's not credible enough, Your Honor, to support the people's burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that these events transpired the way that Mr. Floyd wants the court to believe. His testimony is clouded by the fact that he has this lawsuit pending. His testimony is clouded by the fact that he is intoxicated at the time of the incident. His testimony lacks credibility because he said, when I asked him to tell the story at the time of the statement, tell another story during the deposition, and then you come to court and you tell a third story. Same story 3 different times, 3 different ways. When I asked him something inconsequential about who has on the gloves, a little thing that really doesn't even matter that much, he insists. Even though there's only one person who has on gloves, it's actually 2 who has on gloves. And I asked him, which one of these 3 stories is true? He said they're all true. I'm not no philosophy student or nothing like that, but that makes me this. How can 3 different stories all be true? They can't. And I think it's because the thing didn't happen the way Mr. Floyd wants the court to believe the thing happened. And that's not supported by any credible testimony. Asked Mr. Floyd about his statement that he made. Talked to him about some of the contradictions in the statement that he made to the police 5 days after the incident, and the testimony he gave about the incident here 5 years later. And he doesn't say, you know what, counsel, so much time has passed. I forgot. Okay, maybe I was wrong right here, or maybe that's not what he does. He says, I didn't read it. 3 pages of statement that he signed, that he acknowledges that he signed, and he says to this court, as the trier of fact, I didn't read that. Even though the last page says that I read it and I reviewed it, supported by what Detective Mason testified to today. And before he has anybody sign anything, he goes over it with them. He makes sure that they've read it, he makes sure that they've reviewed it. That Detective Mason doesn't even put this photo array, doesn't even put Mr. Bransky's not anywhere on his radar until Mr. Floyd finally, 2 months into the investigation, after 5 or 6 photo arrays, shows up with a picture that is supposed to have been given to him the night after, I guess the morning after the incident. That for all these times he's going to these photo arrays, he doesn't do anything, but now all of a sudden 2 months in, he's like, well, here. And then Mr. Detective Mason, he's like, all right, okay, now I'll go get a picture and I'll put in the photo array. And then magically, Mr. Floyd is now able to identify Mr. Bramsky, who is not the 5-foot-tall white guy that he described in his initial statement to the police. When he first got started, the people's position was that the trier of fact now has to come and kind of figure out what happened, put pieces of the puzzle together. And I disagree with Sister Counsel on that. I don't think that's what has to happen. I think that's part of what the court can't consider even at this time, even with this motion. The people, none of us are here charged with the task of figuring out what happened. What the people have to do today, and the court knows it better than I, the people have to pick out my little scale. People have to put enough in the scale, enough evidence in the scale to outweigh, not to make it even, but to outweigh the presumption of innocence. And we believe even at this point, the court can consider whether or not the people have done their aspect that they have a witness. The entire case, the people's entire burden of proof has to be supported by the testimony of a person who is highly intoxicated, by a person whose testimony shifts, and the testimony truth just doesn't shift. that the testimony on a little thing, like who had on gloves, which one person had on gloves, they both had on gloves, a little thing like that that really doesn't even matter. A little thing like, yeah, I signed those statements, but I didn't read them. Little things like that that you don't even have to misrepresent the truth about. Just come and tell the truth. The people have a burden of proof. And I am submitting, even at this point, Your Honor, that with the evidence that the people have presented, they are unable to sustain their burden of proof. Because Mr. Floyd's testimony is just not reliable, it's not credible, it's not heavy enough, it's not weighty enough to outweigh the presumption of innocence. And I'm asking that the court direct the verdict of not guilty at this point.
Ms. Ritter?
Your Honor, so the people called Mr. Floyd, Mr. Christopher Floyd, to the stand, was a complaint witness in this matter. And the testimony from Mr. Floyd is that Mr. Floyd went to go meet some friends on April 20th of 2018 downtown. Eventually, him and his friends ended up at the Coliseum bar, which is located in the city of Detroit. Mr. Floyd testified that he was in the Coliseum bar waiting for a table to get wiped off before him and his friends sat down. He testified that him and his friends sat at this booth, and after about 5 minutes, after ordering bottle service, he left the booth to go to the bathroom. Mr. Floyd testified that when he came out of the bathroom, there were, I believe he said, testified that 4 bouncers were waiting outside of the bathroom, boxing men, according to the testimony. He testified that Mr. Spencer was one of the bouncers, the African-American bouncers who held his left arm, while an unknown bouncer held his right arm. And there was another bouncer who came from behind him and put him in a chokehold that he wasn't able to identify. Mr. Floyd testified that Mr. Didmore then came and punched him continuously in the face. I think he testified about 15 to 20 times, causing injuries in his eye. He testified that after this, Mr. Abramski approached Mr. Floyd, and he testified that he was kicked and punched from Mr. Abramski during this assault. After that, Your Honor, Mr. Floyd testified that he was thrown out of the bar, which he called his girlfriend and a few other people, including Mr. Sam Sword, who was in the bar. He testified that after about 45 minutes to an hour, his girlfriend came to pick him up from the Coliseum bar, and that's when he created a police report to the police precinct. Your Honor, the people submitted photos which are marked in Exhibit 3A to 3E. Those photos, which were published in the court, display the injuries Mr. Floyd testified as to what he sustained in his assault at the Coliseum bar. Your Honor, the people also called Detective Mason to the stand, and Detective Mason testified as to his role as the officer in charge in this case. Detective Mason testified that there were lineups done, and Detective Mason testified that Mr. Floyd picked out Mr. Spencer from one of the lineups. Detective Mason also testified that Mr. Floyd did not pick Mr. Didmore out of the lineup. However, there was a video submitted as People's Exhibit 4, which Mr. Didmore, in the interview, admits to being at the Coliseum bar that night and coming into contact with Mr. Floyd. Detective Mason also testified that there was, after a couple months into the investigation, there was a photo shown to him by Mr. Floyd as to Mr. Abramski and the person that was involved in this assault that took place at the Coliseum bar. Your Honor, in light most favorable to the non-moving party, taking the evidence that the people have submitted in this trial into consideration, the people are going to ask the court to deny all 3 defense counsels' motion. Based on the issues brought up by all 3 defense counsels were credibility issues. Now, the people do understand that the people have a burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was an assault intended by the defendant, that there was a physical injury caused, and this is from Michigan criminal jury instruction 17.6 to aggravated assault, judge. And that the complaining witness was the person that this assault occurred upon and sustained a physical injury. Now, to criminal jury instruction, Michigan criminal jury instruction 17.2, which is assault and battery, the people have a burden to prove that the defendant caused the offensive, hurtful or forceful contact with the complaining witness without the complaining witness' consent. And in neither of those jury instructions, Your Honor, I don't believe that it's required for the people to have more than one witness to prove our burden beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this case, Your Honor, the people did submit the complaining witness as a witness who testified as to what happened. And again, the issues brought up by all three defense counsels are credibility issues. And I believe that, Your Honor, the trier of fact can determine, based on the jury instructions, Michigan jury instructions, that the trier of fact can believe all, none, or some of a witness's testimony. And I ask the court to take that into consideration because the issues are credibility issues, which is a question of fact for a trier of fact, due to the, regarding the witness that the people submitted. So at this time, Your Honor, I'm asking the court to deny all three defense counsel's motions as to a motion for directed verdict in count 1, aggravated assault, and the alternative, count 2, assault or assault and battery. Thank you.
All right, with respect to the motion, on behalf of Mr. Spencer, would you like to address the court in any rebuttal?
Your Honor, only in that when you look at the credibility as attempted to be questioned by Madam Prosecutor, when we look at all the inconsistencies that my esteemed colleagues brought up, I'm not going to belabor the missed lineups, the bad investigation, the statements where there's no identification. There's still no one, and really even the video that was here, there was no reference of Corey Spencer being involved, even by Mr. Dittmer, when he said that he was in the front. He didn't mention Mr. Spencer. There's no evidence other than the confused testimony of Mr. Floyd as it relates to Mr. Spencer. And really, there's no evidence he worked there. There's no evidence he didn't work there. There's no evidence anything other than Mr. Floyd. That's all.
On behalf of Mr. Dittmer, any rebuttal?
I would just add, Judge, in terms of what counsel prosecutor said about credibility, I think the fact that the statement that there was no one in the club, no one saw anything, no one came back, none in his party, Judge, came in to testify. We heard just his version, but it's telling that no one else stepped in any statement that saw what happened. There's been no one identified, and I think the credibility about Mr. Floyd being the only one with the 5 bouncers, but no reason given, surround you, no exchange of words, and assault you, no evidence to support it, and the statements of credibility that nobody could see this, no cook, no bathroom attendant, no DJ, no girls around the club. It's just not credible, Judge. And we reiterate our motion for directed verdict. So this is it.
Okay, on behalf of Mr. Ramsey, any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor, and that, just to piggyback on what Mr. Green has just said, that nobody else sees this, and based upon Mr. Floyd's own testimony, nobody comes out to help him. Nobody comes out to check on him. He gets up, he's at a party with a table with some friends that he went there with, and he gets up and goes to the bathroom, he says, and vanishes. And he's outside, he testified for like 45 minutes. And I asked him, Did your friend Sam, did he come out there to check on you? He's like, no. Did he call you? No. That of all the people that Mr. Floyd calls, he calls his sister, calls his friend, he calls Larry to come out and take some pictures. But Larry doesn't, like, are you okay? You want me to take you to the hospital? And Mr. Floyd is not out there calling the police saying, so either two white guys that are bald, or one bald black guy and a predator guy and a 5'10" white guy, or 5 guys who somebody beat me up inside the Coliseum Club, and I'm here, and you police need to come here right now and arrest somebody, or you guys could take some pictures in case my friend Larry doesn't get here to take any pictures. And by the way, could you send an ambulance because I'm bleeding from my eyes? None of that happens. None of that happens, Your Honor. And he's out there waiting for 45 minutes. And then when his ride gets there, they don't come and like, we gonna call the police right now. They don't do any of that kind of stuff. Cause it probably didn't happen that way. And I asked Mr. Floyd, he said to somebody's question, I don't remember what it was, that he said these guys just came out and they just surrounded him. And somebody asked, like, is that just up out of the blue or whatever? He's like, no. And I think it was Mr. Farina's like, okay, well, you were athletic, you didn't take a fighting stance or anything like that. He's like, no, I thought they just wanted to talk to me. And then I asked them, I'm like, well, you came out the bathroom and some bouncers just want to talk to you? What do they want to talk to you about? I don't know. And I asked them, were you doing something that they want to talk to you about? No, I don't know. Not believable. That's bizarre. That's like me coming out of the bathroom right here and the officers just come to surround it for no good. That doesn't make any sense. Something was going on. Something was going on about which Mr. Floyd, that his level of intoxication, passage of time, I don't know what it is, but something has interfered with his ability to accurately perceive this incident, and therefore something's going on which interferes with Mr. Floyd's ability to accurately recall and tell this court as the trier of fact what's going on. You did see a statement from an unintoxicated individual who told a story pretty differently from the story that Mr. Floyd told. And that an unintoxicated individual makes reference to another gentleman who's there at the scene who describes a physical altercation kind of similar to what Mr. Floyd is talking about, and is somebody totally different, somebody who's not there at the Bramski. Mr. Floyd is the people's proof, and his credibility fatally flaws their ability to prove his lack of credibility. His absolute lack of credibility fatally flaws the people's ability to sustain their burden of proof. And even at this juncture, Your Honor, we would argue that the court can direct a verdict of not guilty on behalf of Mr. Bryant, because Mr. Floyd's testimony is not heavy to outweigh the presumption.
Okay. I'm gonna make a statement first before I start. I was real lenient during the course of this trial with respect to a whole bunch of facial expressions and head nods and a whole bunch of stuff. I don't want to see it right now. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, you might want to leave. Okay. Okay, so MCR 6.419. B, strike that D, sorry. States in an action tried without a jury, after the prosecutor has rested the prosecution's case in chief, the defendant, without waiving the right to offer evidence, if the motion is not granted, may move for acquittal on the ground that a reasonable doubt exists. Court may then determine the facts and render a verdict of acquittal, or may decline. until the close of the evidence, court shall make findings of fact and conclusions of law. Oh, it used to say and conclusions of law, but it just says findings of fact. Okay. And then, you know, I often say, Ms. Ritter and Ms. Stevenson, they hear me say it because they are daily appearances, of course, in my courtroom, that in a bench trial, of how I prefer jury trials, because in a bench trial, I have to really pay close attention. I have to take a lot of notes. And of course, when there are 3 defendants, then I have to really take a lot of notes, and I was doing that. And as you may recall, during the course of the testimony, I would say, you know, pause and let me finish writing down some notes. I'm sorry, officer, this might be you would turn the thing towards me. So there was a lot of testimony. I have a lot of notes. We started yesterday morning. I have a lot of notes and so I was trying to process most of my notes while you all were talking to make a decision as to whether I believe the people have. You logged out, Mr. Bryant, that's not what
I would leave it in the meeting.
Oh, wow. Oh, cause that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's 2 of me up there. It's confusing. Okay, thank you. So here are my findings of fact. Well, I'm gonna do it a little different, and I might kind of scatter around a little bit, unfortunately. But here's the findings of fact. So the people, of course, they have the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about, I think the date is April 20th, in the city of Detroit, County of Wayne, that the 3 defendants before me committed 1 count of assault aggravated, or the people were allowed to amend their complaint on the first day of trial to also include the lesser included of assault or assault and battery. They submitted 3 witnesses, 1 factual witness, and then 2 investigatory witnesses. And I'm going to read a couple of those same jury instructions that Ms. Ritter kind of referred to with respect to how I have reached my conclusion as to the motions plural. So, of course, people have a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is a fair, honest doubt throwing out the evidence or lack of evidence. It is not merely an imaginary or possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason and common sense. A reasonable doubt is just that, a doubt that is reasonable after a careful and considered examination of the facts and circumstances of the case. That was a CJI 3.2. And then CJI 3.6 tells the jury how to decide credibility and whatnot. And it says, in deciding which testimony you believe, you should rely on your own common sense and everyday experiences. There is no big set of rules for judging the witness's credibility. And then jump over to number 4, it says testimony. Sometimes the testimony of different witnesses will not agree, and you must decide which testimony you accept. You should think about whether the disagreement involves something important or not, and whether you think someone is lying or simply mistaken. People see and hear things differently, and witnesses may testify honestly, but simply be wrong about what they thought they saw or remember. It is a good idea to think about which testimony agrees best with the other evidence in the case. So that's what the court is charged with doing in this matter, and I'm gonna state my findings of fact. Mr. Floyd went to meet his friend at Floods, and his friend never showed up. I don't care where he parked at, and y'all took a long time talking about where he parked. Okay, so I didn't care where he parked. He parked, went to Floods, and had 3 drinks, but really might have had 9 drinks because he said they were generous pours, and after much ado, he kind of admitted that it could have been like 2 or 3 drinks in that one drink because he knew the bartender. At any rate, his testimony is that the only place he drank was at Floods. He said he drank everything he was gonna drink at Floods, and that was like around 6:30. He might have finished around 7:30. And then even though his friend, I use that word very loosely, like almost so loose it don't spell friend. So his friend stood him up at Floods, and then he walked down to the hotel where this person was, and he went up to the room. And then this person was in the room with some other people, and then they were drinking, but Mr. Floyd was not, okay? This is his testimony, and I don't find any evidence to contradict that Floods was the only place that Mr. Floyd drank. So he drank at Floods about 3 to 9 drinks, and then he went to meet his friend that stood him up. And then they left and went to the Coliseum in a van. They got to the Coliseum at approximately 9:30. And according to Mr. Floyd, he was only at the Coliseum. Well, he was at the Coliseum, and then they had to wait approximately 10 minutes for their table to become ready. After their table became ready, they were seated. He ordered bottle service for the table, and then he got up and went to the bathroom. And he never came back. And his friend, who I use that word very loosely, again, so loosely that it probably doesn't spell friend, never checked on him. He left the table, and they never checked on him ever again to the next day. So Mr. Floyd says that when he left the table, he went into the bathroom, and there may or may not have been a door on the bathroom. He came out of the bathroom, and when he came out of the bathroom, for a reason that he does not know, he was surrounded by 2 to 3 to 5 people. These people confronted him for a reason he does not know. And then this is where I had to put on my jury instruction hat with respect to Mr. Floyd's testimony. On the preliminary exam docket, I remember many times having to judge the credibility of particular witnesses, and then at the preliminary exam stage, the standard is way low, is probable cause. Whether there's probable cause to believe that a crime was committed, that it was committed in the city of Detroit, that it was committed by the defendant. Probable cause to believe that. And then the case law says, in order for you to reject credibility at the preliminary examination stage, you have to make a determination that the testimony by the witness is so wholly incredible as to be unbelievable. People have rested their case upon Mr. Floyd. But I'm gonna kind of go backwards, because I was probably taken a little aback by the testimony of the detective when asked on cross-examination the individuals that he spoke to or did not speak to, the follow-up that he made or did not make. And first, I don't necessarily think that the 3 defendants are all similarly situated. 2 of the 3 defendants are more similarly situated than one of the three defendants. Two of the three defendants, based upon the testimony of the detective, had no corroborating evidence or testimony or anything, as Mr. Sherbo said in his rebuttal, that they even worked at the Coliseum. And then I asked the question to Detective, I think Ms. Stevenson might have also asked this question to the detective about how Mr. Abramski's picture got included in the lineup. And then the detective said that Mr. Abramski was never on his radar. That based upon the descriptions that he was given by Mr. Floyd, that based upon the information he was given by Mr. Floyd, that he never would have even put Mr. Floyd's picture in a lineup based upon that information, but for Mr. Floyd showing up with this picture of Mr. Abramski saying, this is one of the people that assaulted me. Upon receipt of that information, 2 months into the investigation, the detective never went to the Coliseum to see if Mr. Abramski worked at the Coliseum, to see if Mr. Abramski was on duty that night at the Coliseum, to see if anybody else saw him at the Coliseum. Nothing. And then Mr. Floyd picked out two individuals in a lineup, the first lineup. One of those individuals was Mr. Spencer. Again, there was some testimony on the record that there was some dance cards, cabaret license cards, whatever the name of it is. They were collected during a legal license investigation, and then they were turned over to the detective. The detective never said he used those identifications to come up with all the bouncers that were at the club that night, and that's how Mr. Spencer's picture got into the 6-pack based on the description of the person. Okay, so as I stand here, considering the testimony, and I do take into consideration that there were individuals identified by Mr. Floyd that never made it, that were not at the place or appear not to have been at the place. Now, there was also much ado made about the fact that Mr. Floyd chose the person underneath Mr. Ditmore versus Mr. Ditmore. And I know why they do 6-packs. And that's one of the reasons, but the court will just take notice, the person that was underneath Mr. Ditmore looked pretty much like him. I mean, they did look alike. They're not the same people, but they did look alike. So there were some misidentifications. There were several misidentifications. And then the detective testified that yes, he at some point received medical records from Mr. Floyd regarding Mr. Floyd, that he saw in these medical records that Mr. Floyd's blood alcohol level at least 3 hours after he says he stopped drinking, self-report. At least 3 hours after his self-reported stop drinking, his blood alcohol was 0.24 or something. So a detective who has done many investigations automatically would say, well, if his blood alcohol is 0.2 something at 12:30, his blood alcohol at 9:30 had to be higher when this incident was alleged to have occurred. And had he been driving a vehicle, he definitely would have, if he was stopped by the police, he would have been charged with operating on a high VAC. But his blood alcohol was even way more than the high VAC. 3 hours after he self-reported stopped drinking. It appears to me that an investigator would then say, I have this information from an individual who was severely intoxicated based upon his blood alcohol level. Therefore, let me do some further investigation. But there was some further investigation. And the detective testified that he interviewed some other people. And these other people's testimony or statements, not testimony, I apologize. These other people's statements were completely opposite to Mr. Floyd's statement. Now that causes me severe concern. That causes me a high level of concern that I can have an investigation where I go investigate and talk to some people who were allegedly there when this event happened, and they all say one thing. And then the witness, complaining witness, says another thing. And the scales of justice are right here. And at the moment when these people say, this is what happened, and one person says, this is what happened, the scales are like this. This is that presumption of innocence up here in the air. And this is that guilt down here. And so then you have to look at what is the corroborating evidence for Mr. Floyd that makes that turn around? Because just because these witnesses said it didn't happen, they could all be lying. They could all be friends. They could all be in cahoots. So then you say, what is the corroborating evidence that would move the scales of justice? And then this becomes guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, that could be Mr. Abramski works at the location. Mr. Abramski was on duty at the location. Mr. Abramski was seen going back by the men's bathroom at that same time. Mr. Abramski had what word am I looking for? Unauthorized gloves in his possession. Mr. Abramski was kneeling down, was on his knees, was bent over in a chair. Because the man said that the person who was assaulting him was 5 feet something. And it is absolutely ridiculous that we can go from 5 feet something inches, bringing in a picture that is claimed to have been taken at that club. And what I was trying to figure out, nobody asked the questions, and I didn't either, because y'all long-winded, and I thought we was gonna be here for 20 days. How did he get so close up to Mr. Abramski to take that picture? What did he take the picture with? One of them big old lens cameras that was right up in Mr. Abramski's face? Because certainly Mr. Abramski didn't just let the man walk up to him and take no close-up picture of him with a cigarette in his hand at the club on that same night. Don't look like he'd been in a fight in that particular picture. And then I found it real interesting. One of the defense attorneys asked Mr. Floyd, what other pictures did Larry take? He said he took one picture. So he went there and he knew Mr. Abramski was the one that he was looking for. Certainly, the Gentlemen's Club, that's what y'all called it, but That's not what I would call it, but certainly the gentleman's club doesn't just have one bouncer in the club. If I send my friend to take pictures of the bouncers, cause I'm trying to make sure none of them gonna pretend like they weren't working, they not gonna have the records, they all shady, they might try to act like people won't work. What would make me hone in on Mr. Derek Abramski? If he gave his friend the same description that he gave Detective Mason, he wouldn't even walked up to Mr. Abramski and tried to take his picture. He would say, oh, he too tall. That ain't him, cause he too tall, he don't look like the guy. It didn't happen. That picture did not come from that night at that club. So, for sure, as it relates to Mr. Derek Abramski, court grants the motion for directed verdict. As it relates to Mr. Spencer, as there was absolutely no testimony. There was absolutely no testimony. There was absolutely no testimony. There was absolutely no testimony on this record received. I was highlighting it. If I like to show off sometimes my skills and whatnot. But if you could see, there's some highlights on this paper, and every time he said something about defendant number one, I wrote a defendant sign with a one, highlighted. That's the behavior for defendant number one. Defendant number two, that's what, every time somebody testifies about, one of the defendants, then I'm highlighting, because I need to know, is there any factual basis as to these defendants? Well, I had defendant number two highlighted one time that he said that was the person grabbing his left arm. And that's it. That's all he said about Mrs. Spencer. And then he picked Mrs. Spencer out at the lineup on that first occasion, but I don't believe him. I think I don't think he remembers what happened. But that's the only thing he says about Mr. Spencer. So at the very least, the motion for direct verdict with respect to the aggravated assault as to Mr. Spencer, it would probably be granted, but I'm going to continue in a moment. So then I do have Mr. Didmore. Mr. Didmore was the only one of the three apparently. Well, Mr. Abramski, I guess, did give a statement, but it got lost. It's not before the court. So Mr. Didmore gave a statement where he described some encounter with Mr. Floyd. That Mr. Floyd was intoxicated. I could barely hear. It was very difficult to hear all that was being said on the recording, and then one of the other courtrooms was complaining that our video was too loud, and we couldn't even hear it. I mean, we couldn't make it out, so they were complaining about it, but that's okay. We had to share the building, but I could make out, some of what he was saying, and then he was saying about there being an incident in the back room with some of the dancers. I'm just gonna take this little point of privilege. It really has nothing to do with the evidence, but just to point out implicit bias, just a little bit of implicit bias. Do y'all notice how we call the club gentlemen's club, but when you refer to the dancers, you call them girls? Try not to do that. That's disrespectful. They're ladies, they're grown women, they're not girls. If they were girls, they wouldn't be working in this club. They are exotic dancers and they are women. That's just a little point of privilege, implicit bias, gentlemen's club, and then the people inside are girls. They're not. So the ladies were there, and there was some situation with the dancers. And the reason I believe there was a situation with the dancers is based on Ms. Stevenson's question to Mr. Floyd, when she said, she was asking the questions, and then she said, well, he said, I thought they were gonna talk to me. I thought they were just gonna talk to me. And that was a good question. What were they gonna talk to you about? Cause of speculation, that was correct. And then she said, did you do anything that will cause them to need to speak to you? And he said, no. And her example is a good one. If she went to that bathroom and came out of the bathroom surrounded by 5 female officers of this building, she would say, what's going on? What did I do? What's the situation? Why y'all surrounding me? That is the normal reaction to being surrounded when I've only been in the club less than 15 minutes. Based upon his testimony, he had only been in the club less than 15 minutes, 10 minutes waiting on his table, get to the table, order the bottle service, go to the bathroom. And then he never came back. Somebody threw him outside. Those pictures are egregious in terms of his injuries. Something happened to Mr. Floyd, I believe, that night. All the pictures wasn't taken that night. The only testimony about when those pictures was taken is from Mr. Floyd. However, there was testimony that one of the officers saw some injuries and advised him he should go to the hospital. I asked a question to the detective about, did anyone confirm during the course of the investigation seeing Mr. Floyd between these people attacking him getting put out the club before he got in the vehicle to not go to the hospital? And the answer was basically no. Nobody saw him. Nobody came to his rescue in the place. He said it wasn't nobody in this gentleman's club at 9:30 on a Friday. There was no dancing going on at 9:30 on a Friday. There was no dollars being thrown up on the stage at 9:30 on a Friday. There was no chicken being fried at 9:30 on a Friday. That is not the truth. Now, I've never been in a gentleman's club. But when the husbands go there and lie to their wives, they always say it's for the chicken. Now, it was no food being cooked, no dancing being danced on a Friday night at the gentleman's club. That testimony is so wholly incredible as to be unbelievable. I don't believe it. I don't believe that you would have to wait 10 minutes for a table in an empty club. I don't believe that there was nothing that occurred when they got in the club. Now, when a person is being honest and using my own common sense and everyday experiences from the east side of Detroit, when a person is being honest, they don't make up stuff that don't just make all the way sense. Yes, I got into it with one of the dancers and then they beat the crap out of me. That's a crime. I got into it with one of their dancers. I came out the bathroom, they surrounded me and beat the crap out of me. That is a crime. And that would be punishable by whatever this is punishable by. But when you come to court and say things that don't make any sense, then I always pull out my jury instruction that says I'm free to believe all, none, or part of any person's testimony. And when a person continues to be dishonest, when a person continues to not concede the obvious truth, when a person says that they signed a statement and signed every page, including the page that said, I read the statement, but then they say, I didn't read it. And then somebody asks, well, don't you have to read contracts and whatnot? And then they say something like, that's what I have lawyers for. I had agents for that. That's some of the most ridiculous stuff a person can say. And that's why half the people who go to professional football and basketball and baseball don't make money because your people steal your money because you don't read. Right? So that was one of the most ridiculous things that could be said. And because of that type of ridiculousness in his testimony, I choose to believe none of what Mr. Floyd says, including that Mr. Ditmore punched him in the face all those times, including that Mr. Spencer held him down while Mr. Ditmore punched him in the face. I definitely don't believe that Mr. Abramski was, even present. And asked each defendant, the court is going to grant defense counsel motions for directed verdict and direct verdicts of acquittal as to defendant Ditmore, defendant Spencer, and defendant Abramski.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.